a journey to the bottom of the ocean. Welcome to History to Snooze By. Tonight, we invite you to settle in, breathe deeply, and prepare for a journey unlike any other. One that takes you far away from the noise of the world above. If you enjoy these calming stories, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment sharing what places or times you'd like us to explore next. Now, close your eyes if you haven't already. The water is calm, the ocean is waiting, and we are about to go down into the deep. Part 1, From Light to Twilight, Surface to 1,000 meters. The sea is calm as your vessel prepares to slip beneath the surface. You sit quietly inside the submersible, the hum of machinery steady and soft, like a distant lullaby. Above you, sunlight dances on the rippling waves, casting ribbons of gold across the water's surface. The air is warm and filled with the familiar scent of salt. But below, the world changes quickly. With a gentle shudder, the sub begins its descent. At first, everything is familiar. Schools of fish dart around you, their scales catching the light in flashes of silver and blue. This is the epipelagic zone, also called the sunlight zone. It stretches from the surface down to about 200 meters. Here, sunlight still penetrates the water, creating a realm of energy, color, and movement. The temperature is warm and variable, and life is abundant. As the vessel sinks beneath 20 meters, the bright surface dims to a deeper blue. You pass a school of skipjack tuna, sleek and streamlined, moving as a single fluid body. Loggerhead sea turtles glide through the water with steady strokes of their flippers. Their eyes seem ancient, calm, and focused. You watch one rise toward the surface for air, then slowly return to the deep, vanishing into the blue. At 50 meters, a bloom of moon jellyfish drifts past. Their umbrella-like bodies are transparent and pulsating, each trailing long, stinging tentacles that sway with the currents. Some are tinted soft pink or purple, glowing faintly in the shifting light. Moving past 100 meters, the colors around you begin to change. Reds and oranges vanish first. Blue remains dominant. A large sailfish speeds by, its elongated dorsal fin slicing the water like a blade. In its wake, small anchovies scatter in tight silvery clouds, their bodies flashing as they turn in perfect coordination. By the time you reach 150 meters, the sunlight has softened, turning the water a cooler, darker blue. This is the lower edge of the sunlight zone, where photosynthesis becomes rare and the upper limit of the ocean's vertical migration begins. In the distance, a mako shark patrols the edge of light, its motion slow but with purpose. At 200 meters, the sun's reach fades almost entirely. You have entered the mesopelagic zone, the twilight zone. It extends from 200 meters to 1,000 meters, where sunlight no longer supports plant life. Temperatures begin to fall, pressure increases noticeably, and the world becomes more subdued. Outside the submersible, light-sensitive creatures begin to appear. A group of hatchetfish glimmer in the shadows. Their sides are metallic, like polished steel. These small fish have eyes that gaze upward, adapted to detect the faintest silhouettes of prey or predator above. Along their bellies are rows of photophores, tiny light-producing organs that help them disappear when viewed from below. It is a delicate game of survival in half-light. You pass a drifting comb jelly, also known as a ctenophore. Its transparent body refracts the sub's light into shimmering rainbows. Though it looks like a jellyfish, it is a different kind of animal, using rows of cilia to propel itself forward, like a glider dancing in silence. At 300 meters, the light dims further, now a muted steel blue. Shadows stretch longer. A pair of lanternfish emerge, flashing faint signals to each other in bursts of light from their photophores. These fish are some of the most abundant vertebrates on Earth, forming huge layers known as the deep scattering layer. Every night, they rise hundreds of meters toward the surface to feed, then return by morning. You drift alongside a viperfish, easily recognizable by its long, needle-like teeth and a hinged lower jaw. Its body is dark and slender, with a bioluminescent lure on its dorsal fin. It hangs motionless in the water, waiting for prey to draw near, conserving precious energy. At 400 meters, the temperature drops to near freezing. The silence deepens. The pressure is more than 40 times that of the surface. Your vessel adjusts automatically, compensating with small bursts of air and ballast. You are aware of the weight, though it never reaches you directly. Inside, it remains calm and controlled. Out of the darkness, a long shape glides past, an umbrella-mouth gulper eel. Its enormous mouth, many times larger than its body, allows it to swallow prey much larger than itself. It carries no visible teeth, just the ability to consume quickly and retreat. Its tail tapers off into a glowing filament. Suddenly, the beam of your sub catches something otherworldly. A glass squid, almost entirely transparent, save for its large eyes and glowing internal organs. It spins once in the light, then vanishes with a burst of inkless propulsion. Many species of glass squid inhabit this twilight zone, each with slightly different shapes and strategies for survival. At 500 meters, a dense curtain of marine snow surrounds you. It falls endlessly, tiny particles of dead plankton, fecal matter, plant detritus, and microscopic life. It feeds the entire deep ocean ecosystem. Every flake carries the memory of life from above. You watch it drift past like slow snowfall in midnight water. Near 600 meters, a snipe eel appears. Its long, whip-thin body bends and coils as it swims. The jaws curve strangely long and thin, almost like tweezers. It uses them to capture tiny crustaceans in the dark. Though it looks fragile, it thrives at this depth, moving with eerie grace. You pass a drifting pelican eel, also called the gulper eel. Its enormous mouth hangs open, ready to trap small fish or squid. Its body ends in a slender, glowing tail, waving behind it like a luminous string. At 700 meters, a sudden flash in the dark catches your eye. A deep-sea jellyfish, Atala wivillii, flares in bright red and blue spirals. When threatened, it produces these dazzling patterns to confuse predators or attract larger animals that might scare them off. The effect is hypnotic, like a spinning galaxy blooming in the deep. By 800 meters, your sub is surrounded by true darkness. Only the vessel's light and the glow of the animals remain. A pair of bristlemouths shimmer just outside. These small fish are named for their needle-like teeth and are possibly the most numerous fish on the planet. They hover here still, watchful, pulsing with faint light. You pass a long, slender barracuda gliding smoothly through the water. Though related to the surface barracuda, this deep-sea cousin is quieter, more reserved in its movements. Its jaws snap open quickly to catch drifting prey, then close again without a sound. As you approach 900 meters, the diversity of life remains striking. A deep-sea dragonfish appears, its mouth slightly open, revealing curved fangs that glow faintly. A barbel, a tendril dangling from its chin, emits light to lure small fish into striking range. Its scales are dark, but edged with subtle iridescence. You are now approaching 1,000 meters, the very edge of the twilight zone. Ahead lies total darkness, the midnight zone, where sunlight never reaches and the rules of life change once again. Here you pause, letting the vessel hover. Around you, the world is quiet. The glow of bioluminescence fades and flares like the heartbeat of the deep. You are far from the sun, far from sound. And yet, all around you, life continues. In stillness, in pressure, in night. Part 2, Into the Midnight Zone, 1,000 to 3,000 meters. The submersible hums softly as it continues its slow descent. The light from above is gone now, not faded but fully extinguished. You have crossed the threshold into the bathypelagic zone, the midnight zone. It stretches from around 1,000 meters to 4,000 meters deep, and you are beginning your journey through its heart. Outside, the world is absolute black. Not a dim blue, not a heavy gray, but a darkness so deep it feels like a presence. It surrounds the vessel like velvet, absorbing the light from your external lamps almost completely. This is a realm without sun, where light, when it appears, comes only from life itself. At 1,100 meters, the pressure has increased to over 100 times that at the surface. The temperature hovers just above freezing, a constant chill that never changes. No currents stir here. The water is still. The silence is total. The first thing you notice is how the pace of life has slowed. Movement is minimal. Energy is conserved. Every flick of a fin, every burst of light is calculated and rare. Ahead, the lights catch the soft form of a giant amphipod, drifting with slow intent. It resembles an oversized shrimp, but translucent and ghostly, with long, jointed legs. It is adapted to pressure most animals could never survive. Near 1,200 meters, you spot the coiled shape of a deep-sea octopus, perhaps of the Grimpateuthis genus, also known as the Dumbo octopus. Its fins flap like ears, slowly undulating as it hovers above the sediment. The rest of its body is soft, gelatinous, delicate. It appears unbothered by your presence, drifting with a calm that matches the silence around it. At 1,300 meters, the hull of your sub passes over the remnants of a fallen whale, a whale fall. Its skeleton lies half buried in the mud, vertebrae stretched out like the ruins of a collapsed cathedral. The flesh is gone, but life still gathers. Hagfish slither through the bones, their scaleless bodies twisting as they feed. These eel-like scavengers have jawless mouths and produce clouds of slime to deter predators. A small colony of zombie worms, ostax, is burrowed into the whale bones, digesting fats and oils left behind. They have no eyes, no mouth, no stomach, only symbiotic bacteria that help them break down what remains. At 1,400 meters, your light beam catches a tripod fish, standing motionless on the seafloor using 3 elongated fins as supports. Its body is silver gray, nearly featureless. It faces into the current, unmoving, waiting for small crustaceans to drift into its open mouth. It can stand like this for hours, even days, suspended in perfect stillness. A little farther on, at around 1,500 meters, a black swallower appears in the dark. This fish is small, but possesses an elastic stomach and jaw, allowing it to consume prey twice its own size. It drifts with its oversized mouth slightly open, searching for movement. Despite its strange appearance, it is well adapted to this zone, where food is scarce and meals must count. You descend deeper. At 1,600 meters, your instruments detect a faint thermal variation. You are passing near a hydrothermal vent field, where seawater seeps into cracks in the Earth's crust and returns, heated and rich with minerals. The glow is faint but visible, clouds of superheated water rising into the dark, laden with iron and sulfur. Around the vent, an entire ecosystem blooms. Riftia pachyptila, or giant tube worms, stand like pale red candles, their feathery plumes waving gently in the warm flow. They have no mouths or digestive systems. Instead, they rely on symbiotic bacteria to convert the chemical energy of the vent into food. Around them crawl vent crabs, stark white, their bodies adapted to heat and toxic water. The contrast is striking. Heat and life surrounded by freezing blackness. Why 1,800 meters, the water is colder again. The glow of the vents has faded behind you. You enter another stretch of deep stillness. You pass a gulper eel, its long ribbon-like tail trailing behind it like a streamer. The head is large, with an expandable jaw and pouch-like mouth that can open wide enough to engulf prey nearly as large as itself. Its small, dark eyes catch the beam of your sub briefly before it vanishes into the dark with a gentle flick. At 2,000 meters, you enter the domain of the anglerfish. One drifts into view now. It is a female, significantly larger than the male, and equipped with a bioluminescent lure that dangles from a stalk on her forehead. The tip pulses gently with a soft, bluish glow. It is bait, an invitation to small prey. Her body is round and armored, her teeth long and curved inward. She waits in perfect stillness, conserving energy. At this depth, many males of the species have evolved to become parasites, fusing to the female's body and providing sperm when needed. You may not see one attached now, but she almost certainly carries the silent presence of her mate. By 2,200 meters, a solitary rat-tail fish, also called a grenadier, swims beneath you. It is slow-moving with a large head and tapering tail, adapted for navigating the muddy floor in search of food. Rat-tails are common in the deep sea, though rarely seen in large numbers. They move carefully, sensing vibrations in the water with long, whisker-like barbels. Around 2,400 meters, you pass another shipwreck, barely recognizable now. The shape is obscured by silt, its edges softened by time and pressure. Sea life has claimed it. Crabs hide in crevices. A few brittle stars cling to the exposed frame. Rust and mineral deposits form soft hills around it. At 2,600 meters, your path crosses a field of sea cucumbers spread across the sediment like strange fruits. They come in many shapes, some long and smooth, others squat and bristled. Most of them feed on the marine snow, slowly grazing the bottom. One in particular, Enypnias eximia, known as the headless chickenfish, catches your attention. It swims briefly above the floor, using its transparent fins like wings, then settles down again to feed. You continue downward. At 2,800 meters, another Dumbo octopus appears, this one smaller, its arms tucked inward, its motion even slower than the one before. It hovers in place, seeming to watch you. Finally, approaching 3,000 meters, your instruments begin to register the quiet again, total stillness. Life becomes sparse, but not absent. A deep-sea jellyfish, Deepstaria enigmatica, floats overhead. It has no tentacles, only a large translucent bell that contracts and pulses, capturing prey in its gelatinous folds. It is silent, smooth, dreamlike. You pause here, letting the sub hover in the quiet. The lights dim. Outside, nothing moves for a long time. The only sounds are inside. Your breath, the soft machinery, the slow beat of the deep. You are 3,000 meters below the surface now. And still, you go deeper. Part 3. The Abyssal Plain, 3,000 to 6,000 meters. The submersible descends steadily through the silence. By now, there is no illusion of light. Not even the memory of sunlight remains. The temperature outside the hull holds just above freezing, unwavering. The pressure has risen to nearly 300 times what you would feel at sea level, and yet your vessel remains quiet, unbothered, and secure. You have entered the abyssopelagic zone, commonly called the abyss. It begins around 3,000 meters deep and extends to 6,000 meters. It is the largest and most uniform zone in the entire ocean, covering over half of the seafloor. A flat, cold world of extreme stillness. Outside, the water is black, pure black, not empty but dense with silence, with weight, with time. At around 3,100 meters, the submersible's lights sweep over the soft, fine silt of the abyssal plain. It looks almost like desert sand, untouched, powdery, and endless in every direction. It stretches for thousands of kilometers. There are no coral reefs, no kelp forests, no towering cliffs, just a continuous expanse of pale mud shaped by the slow fall of marine snow and ancient sediment. You spot the faint trail of a sea cucumber, its gelatinous body wriggling slowly along the floor. It is part of a vast cleaning system down here, one of many detritivores that consume the endless snowfall from above. It leaves behind a small groove in the sediment, a silent signature of its passage. At 30,200 meters, you encounter a cusk eel. Not a true eel, but a bony fish with a long, tapering body and a blunt head. It hovers just above the seafloor, flicking its tail in lazy arcs. Cusk eels are some of the few vertebrates adapted to these depths. This one glides slowly, unhurried, as though time passes differently for it. Farther along, around 3,300 meters, a deep-sea lizardfish lies partially buried in the silt, its jaw slightly open. Rows of sharp, translucent teeth point inward. It does not chase prey. It waits. It watches. Its camouflaged body is almost indistinguishable from the seabed until your lights find it. At 3,500 meters, you pass a small group of sea spiders. Not true spiders, but distant relatives, arthropods with long, slender legs and tiny bodies. Some of them pulse with a faint glow. Their motion is slow, delicate, purposeful. They move as if walking on air rather than water. They feed on soft-bodied animals like sea anemones and sponges, which are rare but still present, clinging to the few rocks scattered across the plain. A holothurian, or another variety of sea cucumber, floats up into view, moving by contracting its soft body in a slow, wave-like rhythm. Its pinkish-white color seems to shimmer in your light. This species can swim as well as crawl, an adaptation for avoiding predators in a place where hiding places are few. At 3,700 meters, a strange creature comes into view, a pygmy squid, its tiny form no longer than a thumb. Its body is semi-transparent and its head glows faintly violet. It twitches, hovers, and then zips away into the blackness, trailing a brief pulse of light. Even down here, bioluminescence is common. In the absence of sun, life creates its own light. As you pass 3,800 meters, your submersible's lights reveal a lonely octocoral anchored to a solitary rock. These soft corals do not need sunlight. They feed on drifting organic matter caught in weak currents. Their fronds wave slowly, almost sleepily, as if caught in the rhythm of the deep. At 4,000 meters, you reach the true midpoint of the abyssal plain. The seafloor here is entirely flat, a vast and open desert of soft mud. You pass occasional manganese nodules, rounded lumps of iron and metal, formed over millions of years as minerals precipitate from the water and coat small fragments of shell or rock. They rest like pebbles scattered across a sea of fine dust. And yet there is life. A deep-sea amphipod leaps across your view, its tiny body paddling in rapid bursts. It lands on a nodule, pauses, and then disappears into the sediment. These crustaceans are scavengers, feeding on the particles of marine snow or the remains of larger animals that have fallen from higher up. At 4,200 meters, you pass the shell of a dead cephalopod, perhaps a nautiloid that drifted to its end. The shell is cracked, weathered, yet still intact. Around it, a small congregation of isopods scurries, their armored bodies glinting like polished stone. They pick at the remains with silent efficiency. By 4,400 meters, the seafloor rises into a small mound. A sea anemone perches at its crest, pale and bulbous, its tentacles extended. A curious brittle star wraps around its base, its thin arms stretching outward like delicate wires. It slowly retracts into a crevice as your lights pass over it. At 4,600 meters, you approach a section of the plain marked by faint ridges and trenches, possibly left by an ancient current or a shifting of sediment. You see long trails in the mud where urchins have crawled, their small round forms leaving tiny valleys in their wake. They move slowly but constantly, feeding on detritus and algae carried by the currents. At 4,800 meters, another whale fall emerges from the dark. This one is far older than the first you encountered. The bones are encrusted with minerals, and the surrounding mud is discolored by the microbial communities that continue to feed here. The entire site is teeming with small life, crabs, worms, shrimp, and unseen bacteria. Life here builds itself from what sinks down, from what falls. By 5,000 meters, the pressure has doubled again, over 500 times that at the surface. The temperature remains the same, just above freezing. Your submersible is built to endure it, but you feel the change. Even your breath seems to slow, your thoughts drifting with the rhythm of the descent. At 5,200 meters, you see a rare sight, a deep-sea holothurian using its tiny fins to swim just above the seafloor. Its body is nearly translucent with a shimmering internal structure visible in your lights. It moves upward, pulses once, then sinks back to the plain. By 5,400 meters, you pass a strange rocky outcrop, an isolated hill jutting from the mud. It may be volcanic in origin, the top of a buried seamount. On its surface, small colonies of glass sponges cling to the rock. Their bodies are formed of silica, delicate and branching like frosted crystal. A single polychaete worm waves gently between the filaments, searching for food. At 5,600 meters, a deep-sea jellyfish, shaped like a translucent umbrella, drifts by. Its body is wide, nearly a meter across. Long, trailing arms stretch behind it. You do not see it move with urgency. It simply floats, carried by the tiniest of currents. Light pulses from within it, blue, then white, then gone. As you approach 5,800 meters, the plane grows darker. Not in color, but in tone. Fewer animals appear. The trails in the mud are fainter. The marine snow falls more sparsely. Then a sea toad comes into view, also called a coffin fish. Its short, compact body rests on the bottom. It uses modified fins like legs, walking slowly along the seafloor. Its face is rounded, and it watches you with unblinking eyes. It does not run. It does not hide. It simply watches, then turns away. At 6,000 meters, you reach the deepest limits of the abyssopelagic zone. The abyss has held you gently for hours now, guiding your descent through stillness and soft shadows. Every moment has carried with it a slow breath of history, of evolution, of patience. Below this, the trench walls will rise. The seabed will fall away. And the Hadal world, the deepest of all, will begin. Part 4, the Hadal Descent, 6,900 meters. The abyss has faded behind you. Now the ocean floor falls away, and you drift toward one of Earth's final frontiers. A narrow, deep fissure in the crust of the planet. A world carved by pressure and time. You are descending into the Hadal zone. It begins around 6,000 meters and extends to nearly 11,000 meters in the deepest trenches. Named for Hades, the ancient underworld, this is a realm of darkness, silence, and survival. It makes up less than 1% of the ocean, yet it holds some of the most extreme conditions found on Earth. At 6,100 meters, the flatness of the abyssal plain is gone. The trench walls rise around you, steep and fractured. You float in a geological scar formed by one tectonic plate being slowly pushed beneath another. The light from your sub sweeps over sloping rock, pale sediment, and scattered fragments of basalt. Landslides have scoured the sides of the trench. Massive boulders rest at the base, broken free by quakes long forgotten. Even here there is life, small, quiet, and precise. At 6,200 meters, you see a Hadal amphipod. It is pale, semi-transparent, and just a few centimeters long. But its body is strong. It moves quickly for a creature at this depth, using its paddle-like legs to swim in tight bursts. Amphipods like this one are among the most common scavengers in the trench. They can digest tough materials, even wood or bone, and survive on the smallest traces of food. The walls grow closer now. The trench narrows. Cracks in the rock reveal the layers of the Earth's crust, folded and bent under unimaginable force. Your sub follows the slope downward, slowly, carefully. At 6,400 meters, a long shape glides from behind a boulder. A Hadal snailfish. This soft-bodied fish is one of the few known vertebrates that can survive at these pressures. Its skin is almost gelatinous. Its bones are reduced nearly cartilaginous to prevent collapse under pressure. It has no swim bladder, no rigid scales. Its flesh flows with the movement of the water. The snailfish moves with gentle, lazy flicks of its tail, hovering near the wall. Its large eyes glint in the artificial light, though its world is usually lit only by the slow chemical pulses of bioluminescent prey. At 6,600 meters, the trench floor begins to flatten again, forming a narrow valley between walls of rock. Fine sediment has collected here, carried down by gravity and slow underwater landslides. You pass over small trails, evidence of movement. More amphipods crawl over the mud, feeding on invisible fragments. Some carry eggs beneath their bellies. Even here, in the deepest dark, life continues its endless cycle of birth, growth, and renewal. At 6,800 meters, your light catches something strange, what looks like a small, deflated balloon resting in the mud. It is another Hadal snailfish, resting completely still. Around it, the silt is disturbed. Perhaps it has just fed. Perhaps it is simply resting. Snailfish in the Hadal zone are among the best-studied trench creatures. In some trenches, they are the top predators, feeding on amphipods and small crustaceans. Despite the pressure, the cold, and the darkness, they thrive here. Their bodies are not built to resist the pressure. They are built to become part of it. At 7,000 meters, a gentle current stirs the water. Small particles drift past, remnants of marine snow, and other detritus that has fallen for days, even weeks from the layers above. A polychaete worm emerges from a burrow, its long body pale and bristled. It pulses forward, then vanishes again. Another appears, waving long tentacles across the surface of the mud. These worms play a critical role in trench ecosystems. They help aerate the sediment and recycle organic matter. At 7,200 meters, your lights sweep over a field of broken rock and rubble. It may be the site of a recent collapse, a wall fractured by tectonic motion. Among the debris, you spot several deep-sea isopods, large crustaceans with armored shells and broad, segmented tails. They resemble land-dwelling pillbugs, but some are the size of a human hand. One scurries under a stone as your light passes. You pause here. The trench is utterly still. No sound reaches you. No waves. No echo. Only the faint hum of your vessel and your own breath in your ears. At 7,400 meters, a small patch of microbial mat coats the surface of a rock. These pale white bacteria form colonies on rocks rich in minerals. They may be feeding on hydrogen or methane seeping from deep beneath the sea floor. They are the invisible base of the Hadal food chain. Nearby, a vent shrimp appears. Though hydrothermal vents are rare in trenches, some species adapted to high-pressure hydrothermal systems have been seen exploring Hadal environments. The shrimp is small, white, and covered in sensory hairs. It hovers briefly, then disappears behind a fold in the rock. By 7,600 meters, the trench walls grow higher again, forming towering ridges to either side. You are inside a geological corridor. The lights from your sub cast long shadows against the sloped walls. At 7,800 meters, you pass another fallen whale skeleton, mostly buried now. Only a few ribs and a piece of jawbone remain exposed. Amphipods crawl across the bones. A few polychaetes move between them. Even in death, the surface world still feeds the deep. At 8,000 meters, the trench narrows again. Your instruments detect increased pressure. The hull creaks gently, adjusting. You descend a vertical shaft between two rock faces, your lights barely reaching the sides. Tiny organisms float past, some of them unknown. Tiny jelly-like forms with no known taxonomy. Possibly planktonic creatures adapted to Hadal currents or larval stages of something we have never recorded. You descend slowly, carefully. At 8,400 meters, the trench opens again, revealing a wide basin. The seafloor here is flat, soft, coated in thick silt. There are few rocks. Movement is subtle. A giant amphipod the size of a large insect drifts past, paddling through the water. It shines faintly in your light, its eyes glimmering red. Nearby, a small cluster of brittle stars lies half buried in the mud, their thin arms curled inward. At 8,600 meters, the current is still. Nothing moves for minutes at a time. Then slowly, a snailfish rises from the floor, hovering just above the silt. It turns toward the sub, then veers away. Life down here is never hurried. It waits. It listens. At 8,800 meters, your lights pass over something metallic. A small, rusted fragment of machinery, possibly from a probe or submersible long lost. It is partially buried, and already sediment has claimed it. A few amphipods crawl across it, treating it no differently than any other rock. You are now approaching 9,000 meters. The trench deepens still. Below you lies the lowest of the Hadal regions. The pressure here exceeds 900 times that of the surface. And still, life continues. You let the sub pause in this silence, in the black stillness of a world almost untouched. Above you, kilometers of water. Below you, kilometers yet to fall. But for now, you drift, listening, watching, breathing, in the deepest part of the ocean, and still going deeper. Part 5. Into Challenger Deep, 9,000 to 11,000 meters. You drift in the stillness, passing 9,000 meters beneath the surface. Above you, miles of water. Below, a trench that few eyes have ever seen. You are now descending into the deepest known place on Earth. This is the final stretch of your journey. The last descent into a realm known as Challenger Deep, located at the southern end of the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific Ocean. It is more than 10 kilometers deep. A place so far from sunlight, heat, and sound, it might as well exist on another planet. At 9,100 meters, the trench grows steeper. The seafloor is no longer a flat plain. It drops into a chasm, its sides rough with jagged rock and layers of compacted sediment. The walls close in around your submersible like the sides of a great ancient canyon. The pressure is beyond comprehension, over 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. Every square inch of the sub's hull bears the weight of many tons. But inside, it is silent, warm, safe. You breathe slowly, watching, listening. At this depth, water behaves differently. It is colder, denser, heavier. Every motion is more difficult. Every ripple takes effort. There are no currents, no tides, only weight, only silence. And yet, even here, life persists. At 9,200 meters, a pale shape glides across the wall. It is a Hadal snailfish, perhaps the deepest living fish ever recorded. Its body is soft, almost translucent, with a wide head and gentle eyes. Its fins move in slow waves, keeping it suspended with minimal energy. This fish has evolved for this exact pressure. Its body contains special proteins that would collapse or denature at the surface. It cannot leave the deep, but it does not need to. Here, it is at home. A second snailfish appears, then a third. They seem curious, not alarmed. They circle each other slowly, perhaps communicating through motion alone. By 9,300 meters, you pass a small ridge, jagged, like the spine of a submerged mountain. Along its side, patches of microbial mats cling to cracks in the rock, drawing energy from chemical reactions in the sediment. This is life built on chemosynthesis, not photosynthesis. The Earth itself feeds these organisms. Among the mats, tiny nematodes move nearly invisible. So small you would never see them without your cameras. But they are here in the deepest part of the sea, playing their quiet role in the food web. At 9,400 meters, you pass a field of sediment mounds possibly formed by burrowing organisms, worms, or amphipods. The mud is thick, dark gray, and packed tight under centuries of pressure. It absorbs sound. Your lights make no reflection. Then, at 9,500 meters, a giant amphipod drifts upward through your beam. It is over 10 centimeters long, much larger than its shallow water relatives. Its body is armored and curved, like a tiny living submarine. It paddles with forceful, rhythmic strokes, moving confidently through the water column. You watch it rise, then vanish again into the dark above. At 9,700 meters, you reach a flat stretch of trench floor. It is not perfectly level. Small ridges and depressions mark the area, perhaps from falling rocks or ancient collapses from above. Scattered across the floor are more manganese nodules, similar to those found in shallower abyssal zones, though here they are darker and more eroded. A few are partially buried in the silt. Some have been turned over, perhaps by life, perhaps by gravity. Nearby, you catch a glimpse of a sea cucumber pulsing gently along the bottom. This species is likely undescribed, known only by its pale skin and ribbon-like motion. It leaves a winding trail behind it as it moves. At 9,800 meters, you encounter another strange form, long, smooth, and undulating. A deep-sea polychaete worm swimming freely through the water. It glows faintly, bioluminescent green, not bright, but enough to outline its body. As your light approaches, it coils and dives into the sediment, leaving only a puff of disturbed silt behind. Even here, there is light, created from within. By 9,900 meters, your sub approaches the very floor of the trench. The descent slows. Outside, the world is completely still. Nothing moves. Even marine snow is sparse. The few particles that do fall are slow, drifting like dust through a cathedral. At 10,000 meters, the pressure outside the hull is beyond what most machines can endure. The sub creaks softly, adjusting. But you remain calm, a quiet observer in this deep cathedral. You pass over another whale fall, barely recognizable now. The bones are almost entirely buried. Only the curve of a rib shows above the mud. But around it, small shapes move. Amphipods, isopods, perhaps even tiny blind shrimp. They survive on what little is left. Every molecule of carbon is precious here. At 10,200 meters, a shadow crosses your light. A snailfish larger than before swims upward along the trench wall. Its eyes catch your beam, then turn away. It rises slowly, then disappears. You are likely the only human to see this creature alive. At 10,400 meters, there is no visible life. The trench narrows again. You follow the curve downward. The walls grow close, sharp, quiet. Your instruments record the depth, 10,600 meters. You are approaching the Challenger deep floor. The trench begins to widen once more. A long, flat basin stretches out in front of you. Your lights reveal a landscape of soft, compacted sediment, nearly featureless. A desert at the bottom of the sea. This is the deepest point on Earth. 10,900 meters. There is no sound, no light, no motion, and yet the floor is not empty. Trails mark the mud, small depressions, subtle signs that something passed here not long ago. Even here, the deep remembers. You let the sub hover. No movement, no pressure to go further. Just silence, and depth, and time. You are now nearly 11,000 meters below the ocean's surface. Deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Deeper than any sound from the surface can travel. You are where the earth folds inward, where water and gravity hold their breath. Above you, miles of dark water. Below you, only rock. Beyond you, only questions. And still, you are not alone. The trench holds life. It holds memory. It holds the story of our world's deepest silence. You pause here, letting your breath match the slow rhythm of the deep. Then, slowly, gently, you begin to rise. Part 6. Life on the ocean floor. You are no longer falling. After hours of descent, your vessel rests lightly upon the bottom of the world. The pressure outside is immense, but inside, the submersible is steady and warm. You sit quietly suspended in darkness in a place few have ever reached. The very floor of the Challenger Deep, the lowest known point in the oceans. It is the closest thing we know to another planet, yet it belongs to Earth. From the outside, the ocean floor here looks empty. A field of sediment, fine and undisturbed, stretches to every side. There are no reefs, no towers of coral, no glowing cities of fish, only silt and shadow and the slow whisper of time. And yet, there is life. At first, you see only subtle traces. A ripple in the mud, a tiny crater, a curling groove where something burrowed or moved across the surface. Then, gradually, the animals reveal themselves. A sea cucumber, nearly transparent, pulses its soft body forward through the silt. Its feet are not like legs, but tiny flexible projections beneath its body, allowing it to inch forward in short gliding waves. Every few moments, it stops and presses its mouth to the mud, taking in the fine sediment and digesting the organic material hidden inside. Then it moves on, leaving behind a gently coiled trail. Near it, a small isopod scuttles sideways, its hard shell plated like armor, its eyes pale and lidless. It disappears beneath a cluster of nodules, smooth stones built over thousands of years by slowly accreting metals like manganese and iron. The isopod moves without urgency. It has nowhere to go in particular. In the deep, movement is never wasted. The water around you is not completely still. It moves in tiny currents, far too subtle to feel, but just enough to stir the soft grains of silt. As you watch, a group of benthic amphipods rises into the beam of your sub. They float for a moment, tiny shrimp-like creatures, and then drift back down to the floor. Their legs are constantly in motion, flicking, paddling, searching. They live by what falls. Everything that sustains life here comes from above. Flakes of dead plankton, scales, fecal pellets, sunken jellyfish, and every few years, something larger. A fish, a squid, or something truly massive, a whale, drifting down over weeks, settling like a sunken mountain. Such an event feeds the trench for years. You drift slowly over a patch of disturbed sediment. In the middle of it, a large sea toad sits motionless. Its body is squat, round, with skin like cracked leather. It has modified fins that it uses as limbs, allowing it to walk along the bottom like a slow amphibian. It does not flinch at your presence. It simply watches, waiting for something small to wander too close to its mouth. Not far from it, a deep-sea polychaete worm slinks across a rock. Its segmented body is soft and ribbed, like a moving ribbon of wet silk. Its head is crowned with long, flexible appendages that sense vibration and scent. Every part of it is tuned to survival. Everything here is slow. There are no predators in the traditional sense. No chases, no ambushes. Life here is not about speed or strength. It is about waiting, enduring, conserving. Time passes differently here. A meal may last days. A movement may take minutes. Some species only feed once every week. Others, perhaps, even less. And some, like the bacteria nestled in rocks and mats, exist in such a constant state of dormancy that it's unclear whether they're alive at all or simply waiting to be alive again. Your sub's instruments detect tiny chemical signatures in the sediment. Hydrogen sulfide, methane. These gases leak from the Earth's crust in minute amounts, and some microbes have evolved to feed on them. This is chemosynthesis, a process where life creates energy from chemicals, not sunlight. Clusters of these microbes gather into biofilms and microbial mats, forming thin, pale sheets on the rocks. Other creatures feed on them. Worms, tiny snails, even the amphipods. And in this way, the chain of life is built. Not in bursts of sunlight and color, but in layers of chemical patience. The submersible glides over a depression in the trench floor. At the center, a strange shape rests a wooden crate, partially decayed and coated in slime. Humanity leaves traces even here at the bottom of the sea. But nature always reclaims. You pass a second depression, a whale vertebra nearly smooth with time. Only one bone remains visible. The rest has been buried or carried away. Around it, a field of amphipods gather. Small worms thread their way through the sediment, following invisible trails of chemical scent. Every square meter of trench floor holds its own rhythm, its own ecosystem, its own conversation. And yet, from above, it looks silent. At 10,900 meters, the deepest part of your descent, you pause the submersible. Let it hover. The lights dim. You let the shadows fall again. And in that shadow, movement continues. A small jellyfish drifts upward. It has no color, no tentacles, just a bell, faintly outlined in blue-green light. It pulses once, then again. then disappears into the darkness. A larval snailfish, smaller than your hand, floats past the viewport. Its body is delicate, its eyes too large. It will spend its entire life in this world of pressure, but now it drifts freely, untethered, unguided, carried on the slow heartbeat of the deep. You begin to realize that this floor, which seemed so lifeless at first, is full of life, full of story, full of memory. The ocean floor is not a graveyard. It is a slow, quiet garden, a place of persistence, of resilience. And though the creatures here live without light, without heat, without sound, they live all the same. The walls of the trench rise around you like a cathedral. The roof is darkness, the floor is memory, and the air inside your submersible is calm. You have touched the farthest place a human can go. You have seen the smallest rhythms of life at the bottom of the world, and they have continued without fanfare, without fear, without end. Part 7. The Ancient Memory of the Deep. You remain suspended just above the ocean floor. The lights of your submersible glow gently, casting long shadows across the silt. Outside the viewport, the trench lies still. And yet, beneath this quiet surface, beneath the pale dust and scattered stones, the history of the Earth is written, not in words, not in ink, but in layers. You are floating above one of the oldest and most undisturbed archives in the natural world. Each particle of sediment, each flake of organic matter, each speck of dust that settles here, becomes part of a geological record stretching back millions of years. This is the deepest library on Earth, and it never closes. At this depth, life moves slowly, but the planet itself moves slower still. The bottom of the Mariana Trench records changes that occur not over days or decades, but over eons. At 10,900 meters, the pressure compresses everything. Nothing decays quickly. Nothing is washed away by waves or disturbed by tides. The slow fall of marine snow is barely interrupted, and so the layers build. The sediment here is made mostly of clay, volcanic ash, plankton shells, and the remains of tiny drifting creatures, radiolarians, foraminifera, diatoms. Some lived in the upper layers of the ocean millions of years ago. When they died, they fell, drifting for months, even years, before finally settling here. And here they remain, intact, preserved, telling stories no voice can speak. Your instruments take a core sample. The long tube slides silently into the seafloor, capturing a vertical slice of Earth's memory. The upper layers are soft and pale, fresh, rich in modern organic matter, detritus from plankton, jellyfish, surface fish, and marine snow. Below that, the layers darken. They hold fewer signs of modern life and more records of the ancient ocean. Each thin band contains hints of past climates, of changes in the ocean's chemistry, of long-extinct organisms that once drifted freely in a warmer, wilder sea. 100,000 years, then 1,000,000, then 10 million. Each centimeter of sediment represents a chapter of Earth's story. Glacial cycles, volcanic eruptions, extinction events, all of it recorded here at the bottom of the world. You examine one layer, fine, dark, and rich in metal. It may be a record of a supernova, a stellar explosion that once bathed the Earth in cosmic particles. These tiny particles, isotopes of iron, rained down through the atmosphere and settled in the ocean, where they drifted slowly to the seafloor. Now, hidden in the clay, they whisper of stars that died far away. Another layer contains tektites, tiny glass beads formed by the intense heat of a meteorite impact. Somewhere on Earth's surface, a massive asteroid once struck land or sea. The impact sent molten rock high into the air. Some of it cooled into droplets. Some of those droplets fell into the ocean. And over time, some drifted down to here. If you think of all the things that have passed over this trench, continents splitting, mountains rising, species emerging and vanishing, and always the particles fall, a slow, steady rain of memory. Your sub drifts slowly forward across the trench floor. At the base of a rock wall, you notice a fan of layered sediment spread out like a scroll. Perhaps a landslide from above once tore loose a slope of mud and stone. It crashed down, carrying with it layers of surface sediment, compressed, blended, frozen in time. Geologists call these events turbidites, sudden deposits from underwater avalanches. They trap and preserve whatever they carry: shells, bones, even microplastics from recent decades. You examine a small outcrop of exposed sediment. Bands of alternating color line the wall: gray, red, brown. Each band was laid down during a different period. Some are rich in iron and manganese, indicating times of low oxygen and slow decay. Others are thick with calcium, suggesting a bloom of coccolithophores, tiny plankton with chalky shells. Even the smallest creature leaves a mark. You drift past a solitary manganese nodule, half buried in the silt. These small stones grow around a tiny core, perhaps a piece of shell, a grain of sand, or even a speck of dust from space. Where millions of years, layer upon layer of metal accumulates. No two are identical. Each is a mineral fossil slowly grown in the stillness of the sea. At this depth, time behaves differently. A second seems long, an hour seems eternal, and a million years fits inside the thickness of a thumb. A trench has seen every age of the earth. It has outlived glaciers, outlasted extinctions, and it will endure long after today is forgotten. Above you, somewhere far beyond reach, the world turns quickly. Weather shifts, cities rise, empires crumble. But here, time rests, heavy, patient, layered in quiet dust. You begin to feel the weight of it, not the pressure of the water, but the presence of history, of deep time, of an ancientness that has no face, no voice, no hurry. A place where even memory becomes a physical thing. Outside the window, a brittle star moves slowly across a ridge of sediment. Its fragile arms ripple softly as it glides. Each grain it touches may have been resting for 1,000 years. The star knows none of this, and yet it becomes part of the story now just by being here. And so do you. Even your sub leaves a faint trail across the floor, a shallow groove that will settle and fade. But for a while, it will remain, a mark in the deepest journal ever written. You glance again at the wall of sediment. Somewhere in those layers is the memory of the first rain, the first fish, the first great dying, the first mammal, and the first human fire. And now, in the quiet of this trench, you are a witness. You are reading the Earth's diary, written without ink, preserved by pressure and darkness and time, and it reads like a lullaby, long, slow, endless. Part 8. The Fall of Giants. The trench is still. Time does not flow here, it settles. Everything that falls from above, no matter how vast or weightless, comes to rest in this ancient cradle. You drift forward, your submersible gliding just meters above the seafloor. Light glows softly from the lamps, revealing only what is near. The rest is shadow. The rest is silence. In this silence, giants sleep. Sometimes the abyss receives small things, flakes of plankton, jellyfish remains, snow-like debris drifting endlessly downward. But once in a long while it receives something larger. A creature, a vessel, a relic of another world. And when these giants fall, the trench listens. At 10,900 meters, you come upon the first of them. It is a skeleton, long, curved, bleached white. You recognize it at once. A whale, or what remains of one. Its spine stretches across the seafloor like the ribbing of a sunken cathedral. The vertebrae are aligned in a gentle arc, though some have collapsed under the weight of time. The skull rests a short distance away, partially buried in fine sediment. It is tilted, jaw open, as though in silent song. Around the bones, life gathers. Tiny amphipods crawl across the surface. Polychaete worms thread through the eye sockets and hollow cavities. Thin bacterial mats coat some of the ribs in pale filaments. This is a whale fall, a rare and transformative event in the deep sea. The body of a whale, once drifting high above, has descended over weeks or months. By the time it reached the trench floor, it had become a mountain of nourishment. In a place where food is always scarce, a whale fall is like a sudden oasis. Its arrival reshapes everything around it. You guide the sub gently around the site, lights dimmed. The bones rest undisturbed. But the signs of past life are everywhere. A whale fall passes through stages, like seasons of a forgotten world. First, the mobile scavenger stage. Large creatures, amphipods, hagfish, grenadiers arrive quickly. They strip the flesh, working together without coordination. The feast lasts days, sometimes weeks. Next comes the enrichment, opportunist stage. Smaller creatures arrive, feeding on the organic-rich sediment left behind. Worms, crustaceans, mollusks. That burrow, multiply, feed. They turn the surrounding mud into a quiet carnival of life. Then comes the sulfophilic stage. Anaerobic bacteria take over. They break down the lipids in the bones, releasing hydrogen sulfide. This gas fuels a new ecosystem, like a slow-burning candle in the dark. Tube worms grow. Clams, bacterial mats. These communities may last decades. Even after the whale is gone, the impact remains. The sediment is altered. The food web is changed. The memory of the fall lingers in the trench for generations. As your sub drifts past the final rib bones, you see a giant isopod nestled beneath one. Its shell is a pale tan, its antennae twitching slowly. It does not move, but you know it is aware. It lives in a world shaped by one meal, a meal that ended before it was born. You continue forward. At a depth of 10,950 meters, you encounter something different. Not bone, but steel. A long corroded beam lies half buried in silt. At first, you do not recognize it, but then you see a hinge, a panel, a faded shape. This is a fragment of a ship, perhaps lost in war or forgotten in time. Now it lies here, stripped of its story. The trench has no need for names. Small anemones cling to the metal surface. Crabs move across the rust like miners searching through ruin. Even human material, when it falls here, becomes part of the trench's cycle. In the Hadal world, nothing stays foreign for long. The sub turns slightly, following a trail of disturbed mud. At the end of it, you find something else, a net tattered and tangled. It may have been part of a deep-sea expedition, or it may have drifted down slowly over years. Now it rests in folds, trapping silt, providing shelter. A brittle star moves beneath it. Small fish, possibly larval snailfish, hover near the edges. You wonder, how many things have fallen into the trench, never to be seen again? How many stories rest under this silt? Sunken planes, torpedoes, probes, instruments, satellites, glass buoys, messages in bottles. Somewhere in the trench is the wreckage of the Trieste, the bathyscaphe that carried humans here in 1960. The sub returned safely, but pieces of its ballast were left behind, fragments of history still resting in place. Somewhere else, parts of James Cameron's deep-sea Challenger may remain lost during transport, never recovered. Every object that descends into the trench becomes part of its memory, part of its shape, part of its silence. At 10,980 meters, you reach another fallen body. This time, a giant squid. It is not intact. Only pieces remain, a tentacle, a section of mantle. Its death was long ago, but some parts resist decay. In the surrounding mud, amphipods gather. They are quiet but busy. They do not mourn. They recycle. The squid's eye socket is hollow, its soft tissues long gone. But even now, it gives nutrients, shelter, continuity. You watch in silence. There is something sacred in these falls. Not sacred in a spiritual sense, but in a biological one. In a world of scarcity, a fall is a blessing. It reminds the trench that the world above still moves, that something greater still happens in the light. The falls become chapters in the trench's life. Short, sudden, transformative, like rain in a desert, like fire in a forest. They bring death, but also life. You drift away slowly, letting the lights fade again, letting the darkness return. Behind you, the bones remain. The steel remains. The silt settles again. Another fall may come tomorrow, or not for years. The trench does not ask. It only waits. And when giants fall, they do not vanish. They become part of the deep, forever. Part 9. Machines in the Abyss. The trench is older than memory, older than names, borders, or civilizations. It formed slowly, millimeter by millimeter, as one plate of Earth's crust slid beneath another. And for millions of years it existed untouched, unknown, unseen. Then, one day, we arrived. Not with footsteps, not with eyes, but with machines. You drift now through one of the most remote regions of the world, very bottom of the Mariana Trench, nearly 11,000 meters deep. And here, where light does not reach and pressure crushes all but the strongest forms of life, there are signs of our presence. Not many, but enough. You guide the submersible over a stretch of sediment that looks like all the others, flat, dusted with pale silt, dotted with manganese nodules. Then something glints under the beam. It is a cylinder, metallic, barnacle-stained, half-buried in mud. You stop, let the sub hover. It is a sensor package, or what remains of one. Perhaps it belonged to an autonomous lander, the kind scientists use to measure temperature, pressure, or chemical composition. Its casing is dented. The markings are faded. And yet, in its stillness, it is useful. Small animals have made their homes inside the hollow shell. A polychaete worm slithers beneath it. A brittle star clings to one of the bolts. Even here, metal becomes reef. Farther on, at 10,980 meters, you see something unmistakable. A glass sphere perfectly round, cracked but intact. These deep-sea buoys are often used on research expeditions. They are built to resist the pressure, housing cameras or sensors within. This one appears abandoned, possibly lost during retrieval or released intentionally long ago. You move in closer. The crack in the sphere reveals rusted circuitry, coils of wire, the skeleton of a camera lens. Dust has gathered inside, carried on slow-moving currents. Outside, a crust of mineral deposits and microbial film has begun to form. Life has accepted it. The deep does not reject technology. It merely absorbs it. At 10,990 meters, you pass the broken leg of a tripod, perhaps from a deep-sea crawler, the kind used to photograph trench life over long periods. The joints are stiff with time. The legs are coated in algae and slime. A few small amphipods dart around the base. Somewhere above, researchers may still review the data it once collected, but the crawler itself remains. Here, buried in silence, you pause the sub to reflect. For centuries, the Hadal Zone was beyond our reach. Too deep, too dark, too dangerous. But that changed. In 1960, a steel sphere called the Trieste descended into the Mariana Trench. Inside were two men, Jacques Picard and Don Walsh. They reached the bottom, touched the floor, stayed just 20 minutes, then returned to the surface. The moment was brief, but it opened a new chapter in our understanding of the deep. Later in 2012, filmmaker and explorer James Cameron piloted the Deep Sea Challenger, a slender vertical submersible designed to withstand the pressure of the trench. He reached Challenger Deep solo, filmed, collected samples, and then returned. Since then, others have followed. Robotic vehicles, autonomous landers, uncrewed subs. You look around and realize, though the trench is vast and though our visits are rare, we have left pieces of ourselves behind. You drift forward again. At 11,000 meters, your light sweeps across a curious pattern. Thin parallel grooves in the mud, too straight to be natural. These are tire tracks left by a robotic lander. They lead to a small depression where a box once rested. The box is gone, perhaps recovered, but the mark remains. Even the deep leaves footprints. Nearby, a metal frame lies on its side. It was likely part of a ballast system, weighted metal used to control a vehicle's descent. Now it rests quietly. Crabs scurry along its bars. Tube worms have begun to grow in its corners. Your sub passes a fiber optic cable, long and pale, twisting like a vine. Some deep-sea observatories use these cables to send data from the bottom of the ocean to the surface in real time. This one may still be active, or it may have snapped during a storm. It lies unmoving now, draped over a ridge, slowly sinking into the silt. You wonder how many machines lie scattered through the trench, not as trash, but as tools turned ghosts. Not all are from exploration. Some fell by accident. Lost cargo, containers, satellite parts. Some came from war. Torpedoes, debris from naval tests, fragments of listening devices built to track submarines in the Cold War. Now they are silent, embraced by the deep, no longer weapons. While they're watching, at 10,985 meters, you pass what looks like a wing. Not a bird's, not an aircraft's, but a hydrodynamic fin from a submersible. It is bent, torn. One side is crushed flat. The craft it belonged to may never have been recovered, or it may have surfaced, leaving this fragment behind. Either way, the story ends here. You drift on. A small beacon flashes faintly in the distance. You move closer. It's a sonar transponder still blinking. Its battery may soon fail, but for now it pulses with life. A final heartbeat, waiting to be heard. Beneath it, a plastic tag sits half buried in mud. It is marked with a research station's initials, a code, a date. Someone has been here, and they left a sign. You turn off the lights for a moment. Let the dark return, and in the blackness, you realize the trench does not reject our machines. It simply holds them, turns them into memory, just like it does with whales, bones, and stars. The huddle zone is not empty. It is not untouched, but it is unchanged. Everything placed here, intentionally or not, becomes part of something older, deeper, quieter. A machine in the abyss is no longer a machine. It is an artifact, a fossil, a relic folded into silence. And here, silence is forever. Part 10. The Chemistry of Survival. You float, motionless, above the deepest part of the ocean. The water around your vessel is thick with weight, pressing from all sides. The trench is quiet, still, patient. But it is not lifeless. In this cold and silent place, life continues, not in defiance of the environment, but in harmony with it. It survives not through strength, but through adaptation, through chemistry. Here, at the bottom of the ocean, life has written a different rulebook. One designed not for light and oxygen and warmth, but for darkness, pressure, and time. At over 11,000 meters, the pressure outside your submersible is more than 1,000 times what you would feel standing at sea level. For most organisms, such conditions would crush cells, destroy membranes, and stop enzymes from working. But the creatures here do not resist the pressure. They evolve with it. You drift near the ocean floor. In the beam of your light, a small snailfish appears. Its body is pale, soft, and boneless. It glides effortlessly through the water. Its skin stretches and flows like gelatin. Its skeleton is reduced, partially cartilage. Its flesh contains proteins that are stabilized by compounds found nowhere else. One of these compounds is trimethylamine N-oxide, or TMAO. This molecule protects the fish's cellular machinery from the crushing pressure. The deeper the fish lives, the more TMAO it accumulates. At these depths, the water inside its body is not free-moving. It is structured, dense, filled with invisible tension. But the snailfish survives. not by growing stronger, but by becoming the deep. Nearby, a polychaete worm slithers through the sediment. Its body is segmented, flexible, coated in bristles that sweep the mud. It does not need a complex nervous system. It responds to touch, to chemical signals, to vibration. Its blood contains hemoglobin, highly efficient at binding oxygen even at the trace levels found down here. This worm feeds on detritus, organic particles that fall from above, but it can also absorb nutrients through its skin, exchanging ions directly with the water. No single strategy is enough. Survival here requires layers of adaptation. You follow a sea cucumber as it inches forward across the trench floor. Its skin is soft, its body flexible. It absorbs what it can from the mud. Every handful of sediment contains millions of microscopic fragments of life. Bacteria, algae, tiny invertebrates. Each bite is a slow, careful harvest. The sea cucumber's body also contains proteins known as piezolytes, pressure-stabilizing compounds. Without them, its enzymes would fall apart. Its cells would collapse. Its digestion would stop. These piezolytes are not rare in the trench. They are found in amphipods, isopods, snailfish, and other trench residents. They are nature's quiet defense against pressure, a molecular armor woven into flesh. You drift over a crack in the sediment. Inside, a film of bacteria glows faintly. These are chemosynthetic microbes, living off the chemicals released from rocks beneath the seafloor. Where the Earth's crust leaks hydrogen or methane, these bacteria flourish. They do not need sunlight. They do not use chlorophyll. They feed on chemistry itself. Some of these bacteria live inside other animals, inside worms, inside clams, inside tube-dwelling creatures that cannot feed themselves. The animal offers a home. The bacteria provide nourishment. Together, they form a symbiosis built for the deep. You pass a small cluster of vent-like structures, possibly cold seeps, regions where mineral-rich water escapes from deep within the earth. Around them, you see mats of white and orange bacteria. They spread like velvet across the rock. Above the mats, shrimp hover, waving their sensory appendages in the water. They feed on the bacteria. Or, in some cases, they host them, cultivating films on their shells to graze upon. This is survival without sunlight. A food web built from molecules, not photosynthesis. A community that lives not in opposition to the Earth's geology, but as an extension of it. You continue drifting. At the edge of your light, a long, transparent creature passes by, a larval squid or perhaps a comb jelly. Its body is delicate, undulating with faint pulses. No hard parts, no pigment. Its muscles function at low temperatures. Its nerves transmit signals slower than those in shallow water species, but with perfect coordination. Down here, speed is not important. Precision is. Your instruments detect traces of sulfur in the sediment below. Sulfur-feeding microbes thrive in these layers. Their metabolism is unique, producing energy from the reduction of sulfate ions. It is a pathway that may predate photosynthesis itself. In this way, the Hadal Trench is a living fossil ecosystem. A glimpse into what Earth's first life may have looked like. You recall the discovery of extremophiles, organisms that thrive in extreme conditions. Many of them were first found in deep-sea vents and trenches like this. Some can survive in acid, some in boiling water, some at pressures far beyond what was once thought survivable. Their existence has changed how we understand life. Not as fragile, but as adaptable. So adaptable, in fact, that some scientists now search for similar life on Europa or Enceladus, icy moons with deep oceans hidden beneath frozen crusts. If life exists there, it may look like this. Microbial, chemical, resilient. Here on Earth, at the bottom of the trench, the same logic holds. Lifandures. Not by conquering the environment, but by becoming part of it. A snailfish glides past again. Its body moves with perfect buoyancy. It does not struggle against the pressure. It does not challenge the cold. It accepts. You sit in silence. The hum of the sub is the only sound. Outside, every creature is shaped by chemical calm. In the trench, there is no rushing, no wasting, no failure of energy, just chemistry, refined over time, polished into elegance. Every survival strategy here is quiet, molecular, invisible to the naked eye, but utterly effective. You drift deeper into thought. If life can exist here, in a place with no light, no heat, no sound, what else is possible? What forms of life wait in other dark corners of the cosmos? Built not in opposition to their environment, but in gentle alignment with it? Perhaps this is the lesson of the trench. That survival is not loud. It is not violent. It is not urgent. It is simply patient and precise and endlessly creative, just like chemistry itself. Part 11. The Silence Between Worlds. The hum of the submersible is soft, steady. It is the only sound you hear. Outside, the trench floor stretches endlessly in every direction. There are no waves, no wind, no voice, no song. Here at the bottom of the ocean, you have arrived in a place not just beyond light, but beyond sound. You sit back in your seat, eyes half-lidded, and listen, but there is nothing to hear. Even your own breath feels distant. The cabin around you is insulated, pressurized, sealed off from the world. Yet the silence outside is deeper than anything you have ever known. You are suspended in a place where sound cannot travel easily. At this depth, over 11,000 meters below the surface, the pressure is so intense that water molecules are packed tightly together. Sound can move through it. Yes, but nothing here creates it. No whales sing, no waves crash, no boats pass overhead. And most creatures here, those that live in the soft mud, in the cold stillness, do not speak. They do not call, bark, rumble, or sing. Their language is one of motion, of scent, of vibration, of chemicals drifting in water. You are in a realm of quiet biology. You dim the lights inside the sub. The glow fades to a faint blue, just enough to see the sediment gently falling outside the viewport. Marine snow drifts down like the last ashes of a forgotten fire. It falls with no sound. There is no splashing, no impact, just the slow descent of matter, layer by layer, onto a floor that has waited for millennia to receive it. You think about what silence means here. In the world above, silence is rare. Even in the middle of the night, the air is filled with hums, chirps, rustles, distant engines. But here, beneath 11 kilometers of water, silence is normal. It is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of stillness. Even light, when you turn it off, feels like an intrusion when switched back on. It comes not as a revelation, but as a disturbance. This world was not made for sound. It was made for quiet cycles. A brittle star pulls itself slowly across the sediment. Its arms ripple without rhythm. It moves with purpose, but without urgency, and in complete silence. Nearby, a sea cucumber extends its feeding tentacles. They wave gently, sensing the chemistry of the water, touching the film of microbial life along the trench floor. It feeds, not with a splash, not with a snap, but with the softest gesture, barely more than a sigh. Even the trench walls, towering ridges of compressed rock and clay, do not echo. They do not return your sonar with force. They absorb. They hold. They hush. You wonder if, somewhere deep in their sedimentary layers, they remember sounds from the past, tectonic rumbles, far-off underwater quakes, the impact of falling stones, the snap of shifting plates. But now they rest. And they listen to nothing. You check your instruments. Pressure steady, temperature just above freezing. No currents, no movement, Your sub is drifting in a world that is almost completely still. And in that stillness, you begin to feel your own pulse, the rhythm of your breath, the faint vibration of your heart. Even these small sounds seem loud here. They echo inside you, filling the quiet with presence. It is as if the deeper you go, the more sound turns inward. You remember that whales, even at great depths, sing to one another across miles. But their voices do not reach this far. The trench walls reflect some frequencies, but absorb others. And down here, beneath the lowest layer of the ocean, you are beyond communication. No one hears. No one answers. No one knows you are here. There is a kind of peace in that. You float over a patch of smooth silt. No tracks, no prints, no disturbances. It is like a canvas, wiped clean by time. But even this emptiness is deceptive. Beneath the surface, the mud is alive. It holds burrows, tunnels, colonies of bacteria. All of it works silently. No buzzing, no snapping jaws, no clicks, just chemical life unfolding, cell by cell, micron by micron. You pass near a deep ridge where the pressure is even greater. It presses against your vessel with more force than 1,000 elephants, but you feel none of it. The silence remains, absolute. Here, communication is not needed. The fish do not call to one another. They sense each other through shifts in electric fields, through motion, through touch. The trench does not reward noise. It rewards stillness. The snailfish nearby does not chase prey. It drifts close, mouth slightly open, waiting for movement in the water. When something brushes past, it snaps gently, a flicker of motion, a brief exchange of energy, then quiet again. No thrashing, no chase. The deep sea has taught all its creatures this same truth. To survive here, you must be small, soft, and silent. You lean back in the pilot's chair. No voices reach you. No alarms. No notifications. No static. Only breath. Only the distant echo of your own thoughts. And somehow, the trench feels more vast for this silence, as if the absence of noise has expanded the space around you. Even time seems slower. You glance at your instruments again. 10 minutes have passed, but it feels like an hour, or a moment, or forever. This is the silence between worlds, between land and sea, between surface and core, between life and the stillness before it. It does not feel lonely. It feels necessary, as if the earth must have places like this to balance the chaos above, as if this deep silence is what allows the rest of the planet to sing. You close your eyes. For a few minutes, you let your mind drift. No narration, no thoughts, just breath, just heartbeat, just ocean. And when you open your eyes again, the trench is still there, unchanged. Snow still falls. The stars of silt still drift. The blackness still holds. And the silence remains. You will carry it with you, even when you rise again. Part 12. Creatures Without Names. You drift slowly across the trench floor. The glow from your submersible lights only what is near, but your thoughts reach further, out into the dark, out toward the unknown. You have seen snailfish and amphipods. You've watched brittle stars ripple across the silt and sea cucumbers graze silently in the mud. But in this place, this abyss that stretches across the edge of knowledge, there are others. Forms that defy classification. Creatures without names. Your instruments detect a shape just outside the beam. It is faint, barely moving. You bring the sub closer and slowly something takes form. A gelatinous mass, drifting in the water, translucent and pulsing. No visible mouth. No eyes. No bones. It hovers in place for a moment, then contracts with a soft rhythm, moving away into the dark. It may be a kind of deep pelagic tunicate or something else entirely. It has never been captured, never been filmed. The only evidence of its existence is what you just saw and what your instruments record. You float further, passing over a field of small mounds. Each one rises no more than a few inches above the seafloor. But beneath them live tiny burrowing worms with segmented bodies and feather-like gills. Some wave their filaments gently into the water, gathering nutrients. Others remain still, their existence marked only by a trace of movement in the silt. Scientists have never classified these fully. They've been observed briefly in lander footage, a flicker of movement, a shifting patch of mud. Their DNA is unknown, their lifespan unmeasured, their names unwritten. You guide the sub over a ridge of ancient volcanic rock. At its base, something strange moves. A globular creature, mottled and dark, with no clear symmetry. It rolls slowly like a stone that's somehow alive. Tiny bristles ripple across its body. You record its movements, but your database returns no match. Not even a tentative name. It may belong to a phylum already known, or it may not. The deeper you go, the more you realize classification is a surface idea. The trench does not care for taxonomy. It harbors life on its own terms. You pause at a drop-off where the seafloor plunges several meters deeper. Something rises from the shadow. A worm-like creature, long and ribboned with translucent fins running down its body. It glows faintly in the dark, not with bioluminescence, but with a kind of internal clarity, its organs visible beneath thin skin. You slow the sub and let it drift beside you. It does not flee. It does not approach. It floats in perfect stillness, watching without eyes. You wonder how many thousands of years this species has existed, untouched by nets, unbothered by light. It has never been collected, never been studied. It may have no common name, no genus, no paper, no entry in a database. Yet here it is, alive and completely at home. Farther on, you see something ripple at the edge of a rock formation. A slow, waving film like silk being pulled through water. You move closer. It is a colonial organism, perhaps a kind of siphonophore. It resembles a sheet, semi-transparent, shimmering slightly with motion. It flows over the rocks, barely touching them. Its edges pulse with delicate cilia. Inside it, tiny nodes blink softly, autonomous units working in unison. Each one performs a task, feeding, moving, sensing. Together, they make something larger. This being has no brain, no heart, no central control. And yet it behaves with harmony. It adjusts to your presence, then glides away, an alien curtain of coordination. You try to capture footage, but the current stirs the silt, and within seconds, it vanishes. No trace, just a memory in the water. At 11,030 meters, you find something nearly still, resting in a depression in the mud. A flattened disc, perhaps 15 centimeters across. Its skin is leathery and dark, ringed with soft projections that may be limbs or sensors. In the center, a tiny glassy opening. As you approach, it lifts slightly, then sinks again. It may be related to sea stars, or it may be something new. Its surface is covered with fine sediment, suggesting it has not moved in hours or even days. A life of patience, a creature that waits. It does not speak. It does not react, but in its stillness, it leaves a lasting impression. How many organisms have evolved here, lived and died without ever being seen? You recall that in 2020, a team using a remotely operated vehicle spotted a pink gelatinous creature at the bottom of the trench. It was soft-bodied, fragile, and unnamed. It had never been described in literature. No one knew what to call it. Some referred to it simply as the pink thing. That too was life. Real, complete, entirely unrecorded. You glance at your viewports. Somewhere beyond the beams of light, in the darkness that remains untouched, others move. Some have never been filmed. Some have never crossed the path of any submersible. Some may never be discovered at all. Their purpose is not to be studied. Their existence is not for us. They live because the ocean allows it, because the chemistry of the trench has given them a home. And in this silence, you begin to feel the weight of that truth. The unknown is not failure. It is not a problem to solve. It is a gift, a boundary we brush against and accept. You think of the early naturalists, Darwin, Linnaeus, Haeckel, men who built vast trees of life. They never imagined the trench, never dreamed of creatures like this. And even now, our deepest knowledge barely scratches the surface. Every mission returns with a few seconds of strange footage, a flicker, a blur, a shape unlike anything known. And for now, these remain creatures without names, not because they are unworthy, but because their world is not built on our language. It does not require our approval. It exists beyond us, and it continues, wordless, wonderful, wild. You sit in silence, watching the water swirl gently, waiting for the next shadow, the next strange movement, the next unknowable life to pass by. And you know, this is why you came. Not to collect, not to categorize, but to witness, to share a moment of stillness with a life that may never be named, but will never be forgotten. Part 13. The Abyssal River. The trench lies still, its walls rising like ancient cathedrals of rock and clay. You sit quietly in your submersible, adrift above a smooth stretch of the seafloor, where dust falls endlessly and nothing seems to stir. But then, a faint motion. Not much, just the subtle drift of a cloud of silt, rising, eddying, then sweeping away again. A veil of fine particles lifted and carried by a current you cannot see, and yet you feel it. A movement, not of water crashing or rushing, but of something older, deeper. A river at the bottom of the world. Though this realm may appear silent and unmoving, it is shaped by the slow pulse of abyssal currents. At over 11,000 meters, even here in the Hadal Zone, the ocean moves. These currents are not like those at the surface. There is no sunlight to drive them, no winds, no tides. Instead, they are born of density, of water so cold, so heavy, and so mineral-rich that it sinks from the poles, slipping beneath lighter layers, sinking for thousands of meters, until it finds its home at the ocean's lowest reaches. This is thermohaline circulation, the great conveyor belt of Earth's ocean, driven by salt and temperature, an invisible force that connects the poles to the equator, the shallows to the trench. And part of that force flows here, through the Mariana Trench, slow and silent, like a thought too ancient to be voiced. You ease the sub forward. Outside, the silt rises in curling wisps and trails, drawn by the deep current. It is not fast. Some flows move only a few centimeters per second. But over years, decades, centuries, these small drifts shape the landscape. They carry sediment from ridges and cliffs. They redistribute organic matter from distant regions. They wear down the trench's edges and smooth its floor like sanded stone. You pass over a long furrow in the mud, perhaps carved by a downslope current, a rare undersea avalanche, or the persistent draw of this invisible river. Even the deepest part of the ocean is not a closed space. It connects, and with connection comes exchange. Marine snow, tiny fragments of life, carbon, and detritus descends through the ocean. Much of it settles gently, layer upon layer, but some of it is swept along these trench floor currents. It is stirred, shifted, relayered. A drifting memory. What falls in one place may rest in another, thousands of kilometers away. Even pollutants follow this path. Microplastics, heavy metals, radioactive particles from old tests or sunken vessels. They ride the same currents as ancient silt and natural dust. They settle in the same sediments. Here, the abyssal river makes no distinctions. Everything is carried. Everything is stored. You pass over a long stretch of trench floor coated in fine, undisturbed mud. Then suddenly you see ripples, soft, gentle undulations in the silt, no more than a few centimeters high, but unmistakably shaped by current. They mark the path of movement, the flow of something deeper than mere water. It's as if the trench itself breathed, slowly, in long, invisible exhalations. Inhalations of memory, exhalations of dust. The creatures here have adapted to this rhythm. An amphipod scurries across the floor, seeking pockets where current has deposited nutrient-rich sediment. A sea pen, rooted like a strange flower in the mud, bends with the flow. Its soft fronds sway, catching drifting particles of food as they pass. Farther along, a holothurian, a deep-sea cucumber, rests in the path of the current, using its fan-shaped tentacles to gather what the trench brings. These animals do not chase their food. They wait, they trust the current. Because here, in the deepest dark, stillness brings movement. Even fish, those ghostly snailfish and eel-like creatures of the abyss, prefer to live where these flows are steady. They hover, facing the current, letting water carry nutrients across their gills and sensors. And even bacteria, invisible to the eye, ride the current on particles of clay or dust, colonizing new areas, creating new microcosms in new layers of mud. This is not chaos. It is choreography. The trench has its rhythm, not daily, not tidal, but geologic, continental. Every few years, the current shifts. Its shape changes. Its nutrients ebb and flow. Sometimes a current carries oxygen down with it, a rare gift in the Hadal Zone. When that happens, life blooms even in the dark. Populations rise. Microbial colonies double. The mud changes color. Then the current fades. The river sleeps, and the trench returns to quiet. You drift alongside a long outcrop of rock, and at its base you see a ribbon of sediment streaked with bands of different shades: brown, gray, greenish. These bands may mark current cycles, like rings in a tree, each one a year, a decade, a shift in flow, a memory of what passed through. The river below the ocean never dries. It never floods. It only remembers. You imagine time as a fluid, not minutes, but currents of change. And this place, this trench, is the basin where time settles. The deep remembers what the surface forgets. You pass over a sudden drop, an undersea valley within the trench itself. There, the water is heavier, older. Its temperature is near freezing, but not quite. It has not touched sunlight in 1,000 years, and still it moves. That water may have once been part of Arctic ice. It melted, sank, wandered the deep ocean for centuries. Now it flows here, brushing the seafloor, carrying memories from a place thousands of kilometers away, a whisper from another world. You slow this up, let the current press gently against the hull, and you listen, not with ears, but with imagination. What would this river say if it could speak? Perhaps it would say, "I am old, I am cold, I carry all things, and I ask nothing in return." Then you move again, not upstream, not downstream, just across. The river flows around you, over you, through the trench and beyond. It links continents, moves planets of water, and touches every depth of Earth. And here at the trench floor, it continues, slow, unseen, but never stopping. Because even in the stillest place, there is movement. Even in the silence, there is flow. And even at the end of the world, the ocean still breathes. Part 14. Beneath the Earth's crust. The trench floor beneath your submersible seems final, smooth in some places, fractured in others. A mixture of fine sediment, volcanic rock, and quiet dust. But this, is only the surface. Below it, something older waits. You hover above a slope of compacted clay and manganese-rich nodules. The trench floor feels like the bottom of the world. But it's not. Beneath this surface lies layer upon layer of Earth's crust, compressed, folded, slowly sinking beneath another tectonic plate. This is not just a trench. It is a subduction zone, a boundary where the Pacific plate dives beneath the Philippine Sea plate, disappearing into the depths of the mantle. You are sitting above one of the most geologically active regions on Earth, and yet it is perfectly silent. No tremors, no heat, no movement visible to the eye. But deep beneath you, Earth shifts. It grinds. It melts. It changes. The mud here is deceptive. Soft to the eye, yet formed from layers of crushed shells, volcanic ash, and ancient dust, deposited grain by grain over millions of years. If you could drill down through it, you would pass through history itself. The top layers are recent, mere thousands of years old. They contain microplastics, pollution, fragments of plankton and marine snow that drifted down last week. Beneath that, a few meters deeper, are remnants of ice ages. Ash from eruptions long forgotten, grains of dust blown from ancient deserts, and deeper still, layers untouched by surface life. Dark bands compacted by pressure, rich with chemicals and microorganisms that survive without sunlight, oxygen, or even movement. Some of these microbes, sealed deep in sediment, may be millions of years old. They are not dormant. They live, slowly, reproducing once every 1,000 years, feeding on the barest whisper of chemical energy. They are Earth's deep biosphere, life not at the surface, but at the bones. As you imagine drilling further, you would reach basaltic rock, the crust itself. Solidified magma from when this plate was born, long before any humans existed. This crust, created at a mid-ocean ridge, once rose in fire and heat. Now it sinks, slipping silently downward beneath another plate. And even farther beneath, the boundary between crust and mantle, the Mohorovičić discontinuity, or MOHO. It is not a line you can see. It is a change in speed, in density, in composition. Above it, rock shaped by oceans. Below it, rock shaped by the Earth's mantle. And beyond that, the mantle itself. Semi-solid, slow, flowing. A place of rising plumes and sinking slabs. Here, deep in the Earth's body, heat from the core begins to assert itself. Rockfrost liquetar. Minerals change form under crushing pressure. The sinking plate begins to deform. It bends, it fractures. It releases water into the mantle, causing melting, volcanism, quakes. This is where continents are born, where mountains rise, where Earth remakes itself. And it all begins beneath your feet. You imagine the plate descending, inch by inch, over millions of years. It carries trapped water, ancient carbon, and life from the surface down into Earth's interior. Eventually, it may melt entirely, its atoms joining the mantle, rising later in volcanic arcs far away. You think of how circular it is. A cycle of creation and return. Surface to trench, trench to mantle, mantle to mountain, mountain to dust, dust to ocean. And all of it passes through this quiet, hidden place. You check your instruments. No tremors. But the sensors pick up slight variations in magnetism. Here at the trench floor, magnetic fields can fluctuate, a result of the minerals beneath you. Some areas are rich in serpentine, a rock that forms when water from the sinking plate reacts with mantle peridotite. Serpentine contains magnetite, which creates faint pulses, a whisper of Earth's memory encoded in stone. Even older than the trench itself are the rocks beneath it. Some may be part of ophalates, pieces of the ancient seafloor that were uplifted in other places. Others are fragments of continental crust, buried and reborn in this ceaseless motion. You realize that beneath the mud, beneath the crust, lies a place older than life. It remembers when the ocean was steam, when the air was methane, when Earth wore no green. And yet, that deep rock still plays a part in every life above. Through subduction, elements like carbon and sulfur cycle through the Earth. They rise again in volcanic gas, fall again in rain, feed again in plants, flow again in blood. You may be drifting in a trench, but beneath you is the spine of the planet, and it is not dead. It moves, even if we cannot feel it. It speaks, even if we cannot hear it. A quiet shift, a long memory, a slow fire. This is where geology becomes alchemy, where pressure turns minerals into new forms, where buried crust becomes molten rock, where deep time pulses beneath silence. You glance at your sensors again. The water around you is still cold, still dense, still quiet, but you feel it now, the heat that must lie miles below, rising slowly, an ancient warmth not meant to touch the surface for millions of years. You imagine it rising in plumes, lifting mountains that will one day form new continents, islands that will rise from the sea, places where forests may grow, creatures may roam, and stories may be told. And all of it begins here, beneath this mud, beneath this silence, beneath this dark sea, this trench, this floor, this forgotten edge of the world. It is a threshold between water and stone, between biology and geology, between the past and the forever after. You close your eyes, and in the stillness, listen for the heartbeat of the world. It is slow, so slow, but steady, and it will never stop. Part 15: The Bottom of the World. You've been descending for hours. Each layer of the ocean has passed above you. Sunlight, twilight, midnight. Each pressure zone folded behind you like a turning page. Each current swept past you like breath from the Earth's lungs. And now, you've arrived. The submersible drifts into a basin. Quiet, immense, gently sloping on all sides. This is not just the ocean floor. It is the deepest known point of the Earth's surface. Challenger Deep, located in the southern end of the Mariana Trench, more than 10,900 meters beneath the waves. This place is lower than Mount Everest is tall. It is the farthest we can go in the natural world without leaving the planet. It is the bottom of the world, and it is quiet beyond silence. You dim the lights inside the cabin. The hum of the sub seems louder now, only because nothing else makes a sound. Outside the viewport, the world is still. Dust hangs in the water like time made visible. It moves only when you move. The sediment here is soft, fine, and ancient, built from the remains of everything that has ever fallen. Each flake of marine snow, each dead plankton, each drifting speck of ash has eventually come to rest here. Nothing escapes gravity, not even light, not even memory. You let the sub glide gently to the seafloor. The legs touch the mud. A small puff of silt rises, then settles again. You are here, and there is no lower place to go. Turn off the external lights. Darkness folds around you, deep and seamless. Not the darkness of night. That kind still holds starlight, moonlight, the echo of human life. This is a darkness that is absolute. It has never been broken, never interrupted. It does not expect you, and it does not care that you are here. And yet, in that indifference, there is awe. The pressure here is over 1,100 times greater than at sea level. Every square inch of the submersible's hull is pressed upon by the weight of the entire ocean above. If you stepped outside without protection, your body would collapse instantly, not in violence, but in pure physics. Yet inside, you are safe, cradled by technology, wrapped in silence. And in this safety, you can think. You wonder who else has been here. The answer is very few. Only a handful of missions have reached Challenger Deep. Each one took years to plan, cost millions to build, and risked everything. The Trieste in 1960, James Cameron in 2012. A few robotic probes, a few specialized vessels, each visit brief, each one a blink in the eye of geological time. You wonder how many hours the bottom has spent alone. And you realize it does not know what loneliness is. This place does not need eyes, or sound, or understanding. It simply is. It exists not to be seen, but to exist. You check your instruments. The temperature is just above freezing. The oxygen concentration is low, but detectable. You scan the area. A few small life forms stir. An amphipod, translucent and armored, scurries across the seafloor. Its movements stir tiny trails in the mud. A sea cucumber, pale and soft-bodied, inches forward with unimaginable patience. It eats the past, one grain at a time. A strange gelatinous blob, maybe a deep snailfish or something we don't yet understand, floats slowly past the viewport. There are no predators here. No chase. No flight. Only conservation. Only the quiet business of existence. You think about how life adapts. Even here, where the pressure crushes, where the cold numbs, where the dark endures, life persists. It moves slowly, but it moves. Not because it must, but because it can. You glance at the sediment again. It is not empty. Within that mud are layers of history. Ash from volcanic eruptions, dust from continents, fallout from past wars, bones of creatures long dissolved, microbes that may have lived before mammals even existed. This floor is the end of all falling things. Everything we discard, everything we forget, everything we lose. Eventually, it finds its way here. And yet, this is not a graveyard. It is a kind of archive, a place where nothing rots too quickly, where nothing is truly erased. The cold preserves, the pressure seals, the darkness hides, but the trench remembers. Even now, if you were to scoop a sample of this mud, you would find the echoes of everything above. A little carbon, a little plastic, a little stardust. We're standing at the Earth's memory vault, and it is deeper than you imagine. You let your thoughts float. What lies below this mud? Beneath the sediment is crust. Beneath that mantle, beneath that perhaps the core, where iron churns and magnetic fields are born. You are closer now to the core of the Earth than to the highest flying jet. You are beneath everything. Above you lies 11 kilometers of water. Above that, clouds, then stars. But none of that matters now, because you are here, at the very bottom. And the strangest thing of all is, it feels peaceful, not ominous, not frightening, not lonely, just quiet, complete, still, like a final breath before sleep, like the last note in a long song, like the earth exhaling. You feel time differently here. Minutes stretch, thoughts slow, even your heartbeat seems gentler. The trench has no hurry. It has waited this long. It will wait forever. You turn on the external lights once more. They reach no farther than before, just a small circle of visibility. But in that circle, you see life. You see stone, you see dust, you see peace. And for a moment, you let go of questions. You stop searching. You simply sit. You let the bottom of the world be what it is. Not a place to conquer, not a secret to unlock, but a moment to witness, a presence beyond explanation. Eventually, you will rise. The sub will ascend slowly, layer by layer, back into light, back into warmth, back into noise. You will carry with you data, samples, recordings, but more than that, you will carry this silence, this stillness, this quiet reminder that there is a place on Earth where all things come to rest. And now you have seen it. You close your eyes and let the bottom of the world rock you gently into sleep.